All right, everybody, welcome to the web. A lot of this will also be seen by web design because I combine you. And the reason we do that, not just because we have small campus sizes right now, typically when they are present, they will show you the assignments that they've done. And so you get an opportunity to see where you're going. You also get a chance to see where they are because it's about a year later, and you'll be able to watch and know what you're going to be doing a year later. And you'll be able to plan throughout the year for that. The other thing is that it gives the advanced students who are about to graduate an opportunity to mentor, and that really helps them to reinforce what they're learning. So that's usually how the class is set up. And it's been very helpful during, these few months moving back to campus because we have only had a couple of students. Anytime a small class, it's nice to be able to have peers. So you work on a lot of the same assignments, but you have different assignments on FSO, and you have different sites that you're working on, okay? But you're going to go through a lot of the same process. If you are watching this online, you also have peers who are in the digital cinematography and the creative writing class. They are working on their portfolio for the work that they've created over the time that they've been here. We have MCBS students, and they have already begun their portfolios, and they've had editing for the web. So in some cases, they may need to be challenged. And in those particular assignments, I give you options. You also can contact me at any time if you need a challenge. Otherwise, some of this will be a refresher. But again, you'll be working on different projects than you did in editing for the web. Okay, so today we'll have a quick orientation, and then we'll look at proposals, sitemaps, and wireframes. Editing for the web will produce all of these things, and it will be due their first project. We'll then go over some of the 10 commandments of web design. Those are some of the basic layout concepts that students want to work on while they're working on their sites. So it's something you'll keep in mind throughout the month. All courses will do that. Every program that is taking this class will do that. The proposal sitemaps and wireframes for the web students, they haven't had this before, some of them have, and they are looking at this as a background. They're reviewing it or they're learning about it. They're not submitting them, at least not this month. They're jumping into their lunch a week sooner. So in order to do that, this is the step that kind of comes out of that. And the reason is most of those students are not necessarily web designers. And since this is the proposal, sitemap, and wireframe is the phase that you would go through with the client to build their website. Media communication students, on the other hand, will often be building websites. So it's very important to them. And those in web design have already had this. So it's just a review. So that's what we're looking at this week for editing for the web. You know that we have Friday blends sometimes throughout the year. Right now, they're online. If we have them, there's special workshops. We call them campus experiences. So make sure you look on the calendar on the We Are MCBS. Other programs are invited to look at those. So that's, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to see what's going on, that's where you check, right? The late policy currently for MCBS, this is an MCBS class. So if you're in web design and you're in the DCBS program, for example, you'll want to pay attention because this may not be the same that you're used to. That said, if you have Abby Greenlee in web design, she may be going by the DCBS program late policy. So you can check that out. Usually you can, she'll let you know that in the welcome or someplace like that. But the DCBS is you lose 10 points per day up to 3 days. After that, you can only get a 50. That becomes the new 100. For MCBS, currently, this is because of the pandemic and so forth. For MCBS, it's similar. If you contact us, you can have 3 days without penalty. If you don't contact us, that's 10% off. However, after 3 days, you don't earn 50%. You only earn feedback, no grade. All right. So very important that you think about that. Obviously, you want to hit your due dates. You know, this really should not become an issue for anybody, but you know, sometimes it does. So work with your instructor because they have the final discretion. All right. So don't tell them that somebody told you this or that. You check with them. Okay. All right. Late work is not accepted week 4. That's a time for you to move on to get ready to move on to your next month. And so it's not fair to you to be working on our class here when you're in another month. It's also not fair to the new instructor. You know, you want to have all of your attention there. Let's see. A very important point. It is okay to contact me and say, hey, you haven't graded my late work. I know I submitted it into the feedback, and sometimes you'll submit it into feedback early and I won't find it right away. It is connected to the assignment. So that's not a problem. I do go back week 4 and week 5 before grades are due. If I haven't already graded it, I do go back and look at every 0 and every low score. So hopefully I will catch it, but you are welcome to contact me and ask me. But I will tell you that I will be looking at those going back and checking week 4 and week 5 when you're in your, you know, before grades are due. And that you should contact me closer to the end of, you know, week 5. Because for me to stop and grade a late assignment is going to really affect the workflow for the other students. And so I try to squeeze those late submissions in, and I try to certainly try and get them at the end of the month to catch everything. Okay. If you have any accommodations, make sure you send your letter to your instructor. Okay. So because this is recorded, you can read what this is. It's just a summary of what we just talked about. There's no coding in either of these courses for web design or editing for the web. If that's something that you are concerned about, I like to tell students right up front, you're not coding. There are, you know, if you wanted to be in coding, we have a program for that. We have a web design program, okay? But this is a communication and design class. We will play around with it. We have a sandbox activity sometimes. But it's nothing to be worried about. You can learn it in 2 weeks if you had time to set aside for it. And I'll show you where you can learn it. You know, there's lots of places if you don't already code. Do you already code? Did you do any high school? Some of you have coded a little in high school, and that's okay. And if you want more challenging activities and assignments, just contact me. But many of you are in other courses, and this one should probably be as challenging as most of you will need. It's predominantly design. That's what you want to remember. Okay. All right. So if anyone is concerned about their design history, maybe they haven't had a lot of design classes, or it's not something that they feel comes natural for them. It's, you know, here are 5 things that I've pulled out that will make it very easy for you to at least have a decent site. It's not going to be over the top, but it's going to be good. All right. So these are things that everyone is striving for. And it's not necessarily easy to get all of these. You sometimes have to pull a lot out and edit a great deal out to get down to this. But if you start with this, it'll be easier. So grid your projects. images. Those things you want to have the same size ideally, and in a nice grid layout that will help you. It will make it seem clean. And then align your text left. We'll go over that a little bit when we talk about the 10 Commandments and why you want to do that. Simplify. If it doesn't need to be there, it's probably a good idea to leave it out. Now, if it's a style, you have a little, tiny line drawing or something that you put here or there, that's fine if you don't go overboard with it. But if it detracts or has nothing to do with, the clients, what they've asked you to do or what you've been asked to do for your assignment, then you would be better off not spending your time there, because time management is something that you will also be working on this month, right? And you always do when you do your projects. Some students will want to animate things, just have it spin in a little bit. Sometimes that can get very busy. And again, if you're spending time there, make sure you've got everything else down, okay? Because you don't really want to go off into those experimental pieces, especially if you're in web design. You can take a little bit at the beginning, but as the week goes on, as the month goes on, you're really going to want to nail things down, okay? There are some experimental, assignments or things you can explore, but know when to stop. Color palettes, there are all kinds of places to get color palettes. Probably all of you already have a favorite, but using a color palette is a good idea. Canva has 100 color palettes that you can look at and choose one. The thing about color, if you choose a template and you decide you're going to change one color, then out of 4, let's say, you've changed all of them. Okay, they won't necessarily work together now. 3 of them might, but that additional color is possibly not made up the same way with the same base colors. So if you feel like you're going to change something, the color, then go to your color palettes, find one and choose the palette that works together. If it's a new one, change all of them to the one that you've selected, a full set from Canva or something that all 4 colors have been determined to go together. I love color. I still would use a color palette. Okay, 2 fonts. We don't need 3 or 4, and you will be surprised how many you will end up with. Some of you in your templates will change something here or there, and before you know it, you've got 5 or 6 different fonts throughout your website. We can use one for a header and one for body copy. We focus, well, I'll get into that. We focus on Wix right now, and I'll tell you why. But the other thing is you want to group related content. The mind, the brain wants to make sense of a page, and it is probably looking at quadrants, right? Left to right, left to right. In our culture, we go left to right, top to bottom. So let's not assume that because we understand something fits together, that someone visiting your site for the first time is going to understand. Make things easy for the user and group anything that's related together. That would be if you have photographs, group those. If you have videos, group those and give them specific headings so that we know that those are groups. Okay. So if you do these things, you will have a nice solid site. And so if you get stuck, go back and look at this. We have peer reviews. So someone who has created a site is then going to have their site reviewed by one peer. So you're going to review the peer after you. Sometimes students will contact me and say, the peer after me has not submitted their assignment. What do I do? You're just going to skip to the next peer. It may seem like common sense to you, but I have enough people contact me each month that I need to make a slide that tells you to skip it and go to the next person, okay? And if that person hasn't, skip it until somebody has submitted it. If you happen to end up at the end of the month, people have dropped and you're the only person in your class, that's only going to happen on campus. this month. If you end up being the only person in your class, remind me when this assignment rolls around, because I will give you another peer to look at, usually from the online in your class, okay, from the online sections. But that's how that works. So don't panic if you are the only student who's held on to the end. We use Wix right now. It's not because I don't love Squarespace. I do. I have a Squarespace too. But Wix will hold on to your content, at least it has so far, so that when you come back to web design, those of you in editing for the web, you will still have your work that you've created, your CSS, your images, and things like that. Web design, you're coming in, and hopefully you still have, because you created in Wix, those of you in MCBS who have had this, and you will still have your content. The other programs in the advanced and web design, DCBS and creative writing, this Wix is something, if they've not had any kind of web design, they haven't in their program, then this is an easy one for them to learn. And let's be clear, the class isn't about learning Wix, okay? The class is about layout, design, functionality, the user experience, user interface, type. Type is as important as anything, and color, it's important too. Wix is the tool, that's all. Some of you may have a WordPress, that's fine too. Make sure you submit differently, because I think you'll have to submit some screenshots for your before and after. That's fine, the instructions are in the assignment. But that's why I have a lot of instruction that is based around Wix. It's not because it's my favorite, it's only because it works well for everybody in the class, okay? Notice when you share, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to go, once you're in your editor, and you can do it before you get in your editor too, you'll find, but when you're in your editor, you select Cite and then get feedback. You're going to send that link to me. Notice down here you have duplicate. When you get your feedback, you're going to duplicate the site and make your revisions on your duplicated site, okay? Obviously, all of this is free. This is a free account. We'll never ask you to purchase anything. The get feedback link, keep in mind, is only good for 2 weeks. After that point, when you submit like your before site, please refresh and give me a new get feedback link. So it lasts for another 2 weeks. And the reason it's important, some students will bypass this. I do want you to also send the published link because that will last longer. But the reason the get feedback is so important, not because I just want you to learn how to work with a client, though I do. That's how I see your mobile version. Editing for the web is not responsible for mobile versions. You'll have it there just like everybody else. You can look at it if you want. Sometimes I do if someone's got, a really good site. I'm curious and I want to check it out, but you're not required to do anything with mobile. But web design, the advanced students they are expected to have their mobile working. It's very easy. It's not hard. You're just going to select that screen in that editor and make sure things are laid out the way you thought they were when you put it together in your desktop. Usually the layout is a little off and you just fix it. You just move things around to where it works. Not hard at all. Once you learn the desktop, the mobile is not difficult. Okay. But I can't see the mobile if you don't give me the get feedback link. Then you don't get credit for your mobile. Okay, proposal sitemaps and wireframes. Let's see, you're in editing for the web, you will submit a proposal and it will be in a presentation slideshow. You'll have these particular slides that you'll make sure are in your presentation. And your rubric will be something like this with proofreading and so forth. I want you to embed this. It's going to be exported as a video or, and be sure to narrate it. And I prefer that it be embedded in your FSO assignment. Okay. Okay. Leave yourself plenty of time, to work on this one, if nothing else, so that you are able to complete every aspect. Sometimes there's an audio problem and you need to troubleshoot that. You never know. Leave yourself time for that. There are examples. Sitemaps and wireframes. The sitemaps and wireframes used to be part of the 1.3, but now it's actually something you're going to submit earlier in the week. It's not part of your, it will go into your proposal, but I've carved out a space for you to be able to submit it before then. So you're going to create your sitemaps and wireframes, and then a few days later, you're going to create your presentation proposal, and those will be a part of it. And that's why you want to make sure that your sitemap and your wireframes are created in slide format in the same program that you're going to build your presentation. So it'll just slide right in. Okay. And so we'll talk just a little bit. You have this on your assignment. We'll talk a little bit about what these are exactly. They do go together, and that's probably the most important thing that you want to keep in mind. So here are two sitemaps. On the left is more of what web design will look at for a professional site for their showcase their work. And it's also what editing for the web will be looking at for week 3, when they take a break from the fictitious project that we'll talk about, and they'll just make a skeleton of their personal professional site. The one on the right with the home menu, location, about, news, and contact, that's going to be editing for the web's Real Deal Taco fictitious sitemap. Okay, and those of you who have had this course will recognize that. And so that's just a review for you. Okay. Make sure the contact is always last. That's a web standard. A web standard simply means this is where the user is expecting to find it. And we want to offer a very familiar and easy experience for our user. When you get feedback, it will be video feedback. And I will look at it as if I am a first-time site visitor. And I will go through and check everything that's working. And, if I have any questions about it, those are the things that you're going to want to work on. Okay. A sitemap can be a list, a categorical list, or it can be also a flowchart like this. You see sitemaps at the bottom of websites all the time, right? You see a list of other pages that you can go to and click, right? Well, we're not making, an elaborate website like that. You're making a basic, simple, small client, small business sitemap. A food truck for editing for the web, and then, of course, again, your professional site for web design. Okay, so wireframes, they're simply a diagram of your sitemap. They're a diagram of the page that's in your sitemap. So you're going to have a home page and, a work page, an about page, maybe a blog, and then your contact's going to go last. If you do not have content for your blog, please disable it. We no longer say things like under construction or to come, okay? We don't need to show that, we just disable it, okay? We certainly, very important, do not want template images, placeholders, text or images when you submit your first draft of your site, your website, okay? You will use placeholders here, you'll use the Latin. You will not put images in your diagram. It is simply a black and white. And the reason is, this is a stage when you're talking to the client that you're getting approvals and you're showing them more of the functionality, how it's going to be laid out. And if you have photos and copy, written copy, that's going to be a quick detour from what you're trying to get an approval on, because they're going to look at the image and say, I don't know, I want to talk about that image or that image, right? So this is just to get approval on your layout and how it's going to work. So if there's 5 pages in your sitemap, there's 5 pages in your diagram, okay? And we don't add anything that isn't in both places. So Adobe XD is a really great Adobe product that you can download, an app that will have templates for your wireframes. So I think it's a good idea for everybody to take a look at that if you can. You don't have to use it for your wireframes. Keynote is a good one too. You can use whatever you want. I do no longer permit hand-drawn, because I've very rarely gotten a quality reproduction, let's say, photo image of that submitted. It doesn't help you. So leave room to make these wireframes. Again, this is going to be something due earlier in the week, but it'll just be these two together, these sitemaps and wireframes. But go ahead and take a look at Adobe XD, download that. All right, everybody, have a good week. Contact me with any questions so I can get you on your way, and good luck. You got this.